Everybody, it's a go. How are you? Welcome to another episode of KDM, which stands for Kit Dimitri Movies, where I, and along with friend and co-host Kit Bowen. Hi, Kit. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
We usually will do movie reviews, but today we're doing something special. We're doing on a special episode of KDM. Kit, you're back in rehab? What? No, I'm kidding. So no, today we're doing our summer recap, summer home and summer not. And so we're doing since last weekend marked the end of summer.
Yes.
I thought well, we talked about it, thought it would be fun to talk about the movies that we really liked over the summer and some of the movies that we didn't like so much over the summer. All in all, Kit, I have to say, I found it to be a very enjoyable summer this year.
Yeah.
There were some pleasant surprises, which we'll get to. And there were other movies that I was really, if anything, the movies that I was most looking forward to actually kind of delivered, as
Yeah.
opposed to past summers where I looked forward to a lot of movies and I watched them and they stunk.
Yeah, it's always a disappointing deal when you want
So,
to see a movie. Yep.
right. But what are your thoughts before we get into our list? What are your thoughts of the summer?
Yeah, I think certainly with the advent of the Barbenheimer or whatever they called it, I think people were heralding the return of cinematic films this summer after a couple of summers, since COVID that or since the pandemic that, it just hasn't been up up to snuff, so to speak. Now with the strike happening right at the sort of tail end, right before we got into the doldrums of August, which is always sort of a hit or miss type month as far as movies are concerned. I'm not entirely sure what next summer will be like. I'm hoping it's not going to hurt it too much, but it is a little disconcerting to have to go through all the pandemic and then a couple of years worth of movies, and now having a really good summer of movies, but then what's going to happen next summer kind of thing. So anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed this summer.
Yeah, I think it's been a good summer, and we should just take a minute, because what actually ended up sucking in a lot of air from this summer was, as you mentioned, this Barbenheimer thing, because that was the release of Barbie and Oppenheimer on the same date. And I had this conversation in Uga's Cantina, which is in the galaxy's edge, the planet of Batu, inside of Disneyland. So I had a conversation about movies, shocker, with some complete strangers from Ohio who were vacationing, and they just happened to get into Uga's, and there were places where I was sitting, and they were movie fans, huge movie fans, and they were asking me questions about the summer. We talked a little bit about the strike, and Barbenheimer came up. Of course, like, why wouldn't it, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, this whole Barbenheimer thing. Look, don't be surprised if Hollywood tries to repeat this thing, right? But they won't be able to, because let's face it, the only reason why, and if I'm correct, I believe Universal. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Christopher Nolan was once with Warner Brothers. He had his deal. Warner Brothers released pretty much all of his movies, or a lot of them. And then came the pandemic, and then came Tenet, and then there was a lot of infighting as to how Tenet should be released, because Tenet, if you recall, was like the first major motion picture to be released during the I'm not going to say said, it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And one can argue, was it a mistake to release Tenet and have that like the first major movie going out? Because the bottom line is, we were still in the throes of people were
Yeah.
still scared to
Yeah.
go to the movies.
Yeah.
And as big as Tenet is, again, I'm not sure it was the right play to have that be the first movie to entice people to come out, because people weren't coming out.
No, they weren't.
I wasn't really going out. Were you going out at that time?
I did actually see Tenet in the theater, I have to admit, but it was nobody was there. We sat way in the back, away from everybody else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just don't think it was that good of a movie either.
Well, then there's that. So, in any case, that led to a big brouhaha between Christopher Nolan and Warner Brothers, and Nolan said, "Screw you guys, I'm out of here." Universal said, "Hey, we'd be happy to have you. What do you want to release next?" And he goes, "Well, I want to release this movie about the guy that invented that brought us into the atomic age, Oppenheimer." And Universal was like, "Okay, sure. Why not? Sure. So we're gonna have this movie as an hour and a half. Oh, hell no. It's gonna be 3 hours. What? Oh, yeah, and then I want to film it in like true IMAX on film. What? Did we make this deal? Is this the sign? Oh, it's signed. Great. It's good deal. Let's do it. And so they pick a date. Now, meanwhile, Warner Brothers has this movie Barbie, which is an IP, obviously, but they had this coming out. Greta Gerwig. There has been a lot of talk. Margot Robbie, right?
Yeah.
And they decide, out of the kindness of their hearts, to release Barbie on the same date as Oppenheimer, the Christopher Nolan movie, the guy that just ankled that studio. They said, "Hey, in honor of Christopher Nolan, we're going to release our family-friendly PG-13 movie that's like under 2 hours and not history and not, a drama. We're going to release that just to say, hey,
because we like you."
Because we like you. Yes. Okay. So if you can't pick up on the sarcasm, so listen, folks, if you thought Barbenheimer was on purpose, you'd be sorely mistaken, because a studio doesn't plant a movie up against another movie if they don't think they can win that weekend. And they sure as hell are not putting a movie on another movie's date to help that other movie out.
Right.
I don't know where, and this would be fascinating, where the origins of Barbenheimer came from, but all I recall is this term Barbenheimer, because we love to put words together, came about. And then like Tom Cruise, Christopher McQuarrie were being asked, which movie are you going to see? And then they started taking photos of them buying tickets or having tickets for both movies. And then Greta Gerwig, and then all these other actors were doing, hey, look, I'm seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer on the same day. And this Barbenheimer thing exploded.
Yeah.
Like exploded. And let's be fair and honest, had Barbenheimer not happened, I don't think either movie would have been as big, because Barbenheimer did not just stay in the States. It became an event worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And look, Barbie is the highest grossing movie worldwide.
Yep.
Billions, right?
Right.
There's no way Oppenheimer would be close to $1 billion had it not been for Barbenheimer and what it's done stateside. I mean, it's a 3-hour historic biopic.
Right.
I mean, it would have done well, I think, because it's better than Tenet. But let's face it, whatever this organic thing that happened with Barbie and Oppenheimer, those movies ended up being linked. They were symbiotic to each other's grosses, and they each fueled each other's grosses in some
and there's no way They can capture that same magic. No way.
No, because there's no way Warner Brothers said, "Hey, we're releasing Barbie on your Oppenheimer date, Universal. How can we work together?" That's not why they released Barbie on
Nope.
Oppenheimer, vice
Nope.
versa. So we were very lucky, and I think Barbenheimer is something that could be taught in some sort of film marketing classes,
Oh
because
yeah.
it really was something to
Yeah.
behold and to be a part of, and people took each movie as an event. And if they didn't see it on the same day, they for sure saw it on the same weekend.
Yep.
And it did. That's the other thing too, Kit, that amazed me. It didn't just last one weekend. We thought
No.
both would fall off a cliff that second weekend. Nope. They both kept maintained levels of box office grosses. And many say that it really helped the economy. It sure helped
Yeah.
exhibitors and the
Yeah.
studios
Oh yeah.
and movie theaters in general. So I had to talk about Barbenheimer because it was it's not just a major part of the summer. I think it's a major part of our year 2023 in movies.
100%. Yeah. And
So
both of those movies are on my list, by the way.
both of those movies are on your list. So why don't we start with you? So we are going to do our fave five. And we're going to start backwards. We're going to start with number 5 and work our way to number 1. It's like a countdown.
Yeah, it's a little
So
bit of a
what was
countdown.
your fifth favorite
So
movie?
so my fifth movie was Barbie.
Whoa, look at that.
Yeah. I I had so much fun with it, and despite all of the talk and all of everything that came out around it, some of the backlash and whatnot, but I had fun with it. I thought the acting was so much fun. Ryan Gosling completely stole the film, and the messages I thought were good. And I know we had a very lengthy discussion about it, and you were a little meh on how it treated things, but I, on the other hand, thought it was just a lot of fun and poignant and sad at times, and it was just I just enjoyed it as a summer movie. I felt it was one of the perfect summer movies.
I mean, I appreciate what it did to how both those movies, how it helped the business.
Yeah.
I also appreciate it, and I said this in my review. I was very meh on the movie. In
Yeah.
fact, it did not make my list.
Right.
But it also didn't make my list of stinkers either.
So what's your number 5 then?
But I just wanted to say, like, one thing I did appreciate about Barbie, and I know you experienced this as well because we talked about it, was the movie going experience.
Yeah.
I saw it with like the people that it brought in. It wasn't just girls. There were
Yeah.
date nights, there were women, and people were dressing up in pink. There were fathers and daughters. I loved seeing that. That to me was fun. So my number 5 movie was the last movie that I saw in the summer was The Equalizer 3.
Yes.
The movie kind of surprised me in the sense that it's the third in this series, and it was so well done. Extraordinarily violent, but I really thought that it was a great ending for this series. Denzel was fantastic. The action was great, but I thought it really had a really solid narrative to it.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciated the time detail that was put into this story. And I thought that it was really well done. It got cheers and applause when I watched it. And that's my number 5 movie was The Equalizer 3.
And I enjoyed it as well. I absolutely did. It's just, not that it couldn't have made my list. It just didn't. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. It was certainly for a third installment and probably the best.
Yeah.
It was surprising. It was surprising how good it was. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
What was your number 4?
Number 4 is Oppenheimer.
There you go. Look at that. You had Barbie and Oppenheimer.
I know. It was truly an experience. And one that should not have been missed in the theater, in my opinion. Although if you did miss it and still want to watch it, I'm sure you'll still get a lot out of it. But watching it on the big screen was tremendous, especially in IMAX. But the content of it was compelling. The performances were unbelievable, especially Cillian Murphy, who was just above and beyond at this point. And yeah, I mean, I had to go home and read all about it all over again, about Oppenheimer and his life and just all of the things that ended up happening with the creation of this bomb. And I don't know, it was Nolan at one of his best. I mean, I wouldn't say it's my most favorite Nolan movie, but certainly was a history lesson that I wanted to learn. I wanted to know this information and I wanted to see it played out, and he did it beautifully. So, yeah, that was number 4 for me.
Fantastic. That's interesting. It's on my list. It's not my number 4. My 4 is it's a very pleasant surprise of the year. And I think this entire year for me has been filled with these little pleasant surprises. This being one of them. It was Gran Turismo. This movie I had so little desire to see this going into this movie. Here we go. I was just, it's a movie based off of a video game, a racing video game. I just kept on thinking, great, we just need another Need for Speed, really?
Right.
Until I realized, and it wasn't until CinemaCon during the Sony presentation when they came out and they talked about how it was based off of a true story. And I was like, huh, okay, fascinating. And they showed some footage and I was like, okay, I'm kind of in. Still skeptical, sorry, skeptical, but I'm kind of in. And I went to see it. Sony did a really good job. Like they previewed this movie. They gave people opportunity to go see it. I watched it at one of these preview screenings. The crowd I watched it with, I mean, cheering and applauding. It played like a really crowd-pleasing sports movie.
No, and I love those.
This movie it took me by such surprise as to how I was drawn into this movie that it was a really good, it's an underdog story. And when you realize it's a true story, and David Harbour puts in, I think, a fantastic performance.
I love him.
Yeah. And yeah, it's great to see him start to shed his Stranger Things. Look, he's great in Stranger Things. I'm not going to take that away. But we had that, what was it? That Violent Night, which came out, which I loved. He's really good in this Gran Turismo, as are all the kids. And Pirates of the Caribbean guy, not Johnny Depp, the love interest. What's his name? He was also in
Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom. And to me, this is like a comeback picture for him. He's really good. I just really liked this movie. It was directed from the guy that did District 9.
Yeah, Neil
Blomkamp, who, to straight up, not his biggest fan, but this movie, I think, is his best movie to date. And the movie works as a crowd pleaser. I really loved Gran Turismo. Surprised me. It makes my number 4. So what was your number 3?
My number 3 was Spider-Man.
Last of the Demeter.
Which wasn't horrible.
It wasn't horrible.
No. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
I actually just saw it sort of again on an airplane. And I mean, I say sort of, someone was watching it next to me and I was kind of, my eyes just kept drifting over to it. Oh yeah.
Did you love doing that?
Should I watch it myself? No, I think I'll just watch it without any sound. Because it's so amazingly colorful and vibrant. And I was so blown away by the first one with the animation, thinking, wow, this really just raises the bar. And then I thought, how are they going to top it? And they do in this. It's just, you know, I mean, I was just, it was just mesmerizing to me, the whole way it looked and everything. And the story was good too. It's these multiverse type things are all, I don't know, I'm not getting tired of them quite yet, but this particular multiverse just dealt with Spider-Man, so I thought that was kind of cool. And just all the different iterations of it, kind of like the first one did as well, but bringing them all into one area. Now
Right.
now what's his Miles ends up going to all the different other ones. So
Right.
it's a trilogy, right? Yeah. So
Yes,
there's
there's
it,
going to be, well, yeah, because this one
so
was
it ends on
left
a really
open.
great cliffhanger, man. Just tremendous cliffhanger. For me, I just feel like these movies are gonna always just gonna deliver. This one was
Mhm.
just as good as the first one, I thought. So
I,
that's my number
I
two.
did. I mean, I did enjoy it. You're right. I mean, from an animation standpoint, I didn't think they would be able to, like, I guess my question was, how are they going to top the first one?
Right,
And
right.
they did. And
Yes,
they did. And you're right. And the opening 10 minutes alone, which was
I know.
basically a jazz drum beat kind of, I mean, was amazing to me. And it really drew me in. I like the movie a lot. I will say that it didn't make my top five. It didn't make my top five. I had to squeeze in a couple of other movies, but it definitely makes my honorable mention for one of my faves. I mean, it was kaleidoscopic art. You could stop
Yes.
that movie at any frame of that movie, frame it and put it on a wall.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
so
beautiful.
true. It was
It
so
was
true.
beautiful. And I
Yeah.
love the voice talent behind it. It went a little long for me. The
Yeah, it was a
middle
little
kind of
long,
went a
yeah.
little long. It didn't, I don't think it needed to be that long, but as far as, again, as far as summer movie going, it was really well done.
Yeah.
So my number three was Oppenheimer. That was my number three movie. Again, this movie, I have to say, Kit, we saw this together in IMAX 70 millimeter in film, true IMAX 70 millimeter at the Universal City Walk. And look, it's not a perfect movie,
Yeah.
but I would still give it, the high four, high five. I mean, it works where you would think it would never have a chance to. And it is typical Nolan, who never spoon feeds his audience anything. You do have to pay attention. However, you mentioned performances. Cillian Murphy was fantastic. Robert Downey Jr.
Oh yeah.
puts in an amazing and then Matt Damon. So you have three people in that movie who were potentially Oscar worthy performances, along with Christopher Nolan's direction and the cinematography and the visual effects, and seeing it on such a huge screen. Even when we're not talking about the bomb, it was still
Yep.
a fantastic picture to look at and to behold and to take in. You said this earlier, it was never boring.
Nope. No,
The three
it wasn't.
hours, it
Even
was
3 hours.
never boring.
I wanted to sit there and it was like a, well, no, it's a little more than that, but it felt like a really, really interesting seminar. It's like
It really did.
I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I wanted to soak it all in, and
Yeah.
but then to have all of those elements, cinematic elements, attached to it, it just made it that much better. So
In a way only Nolan can do. I know that you
yeah,
did have the complaint about his score. Very loud. But
unnecessary.
don't you think that's like the kind of movie, if you're in high school in history class and the teacher wants like a day off, he just pops that in,
Yeah,
because it's a really good movie that could be studied from a historical standpoint. What's real? What's like, what are they? I mean, the characters are all real.
yes,
It's a hard movie from a movie going experience. And we saw it in the best format. Only, if memory serves, only 26 theaters in the country were able to showcase the movie in the way that we saw it. So that's pretty that's pretty spectacular. So that was
Yeah.
my number 3 movie. What was your
Okay.
let's move on. We're getting closer. What's your number 2?
Well,
And by no means do we need number 2. I mean, it's number 2 in our countdown.
my number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume
There you
3.
go. All right.
That kind of kicked off the summer movie season, which increasingly has gotten earlier and earlier, but certainly May considered summer. I again, a third movie in a trilogy, even though there's a long time between all of them. Actually, not so much between the first two, but certainly between the second one and this one. I guess if you take the time, you can kind of, because Equalizer 3, there's a lot of time in between
There
that.
was a lot of
If you
time.
if you take that time to really work on something, and make it good, it works that way. And James Gunn, I think he wanted to finish this story. He had started it. He took this kind of unknown Marvel comic and turned it into this huge thing. But it destroyed me. I mean, the first Guardians was so funny, right? And you just thought, oh God, these characters are so brilliant and they work so well together. And you kind of got a little bit of their backstories from everybody. But certainly, Rocket was always one that I was always felt a little bit for, because you could tell something had happened to him, right?
Sure. Oh yeah, from the very first movie, absolutely.
Yeah. So exploring his backstory in this just destroyed me. It destroyed me. But in a good way, because it was still funny. It was still funny, and it was still, action packed, and there was great villains, and there was a mission to be had, and then how they all ended up at the end was just beautiful as well. And yeah, I thought it was a perfect ending to that trilogy, just perfect. The second movie I didn't love so much. I mean, it was okay, but I felt like it was too soon. You know what I mean? They didn't take that time. They didn't take that time with the second one. They kind of went, oh, let's do another one because look how great it is, blah, blah, blah. And I know they had to kind of fit it into the whole Marvel phases and all that. But
yeah, and there was a lot of drama too. Don't forget,
with
Gunn
James
was
Gunn,
fired and blah, 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 and then we had the pandemic. So.
But yeah, I felt this was just a brilliant ending to that series, and I'm sorry, I'm sad to see those characters. I'm sure they'll probably end up doing something again, but saying goodbye to those characters was sad, but also just worth it.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I didn't like it I don't revere that movie as much as you did. I wasn't particularly fond of the villain. The movie was fine. It ended well.
Yeah.
For I mean, there's so much going on, but I don't have really a superhero movie in my top 5 at all. And I didn't hate Guardians. I didn't love it as much as you, and a lot of people really loved it too.
Yeah.
Which I get. And Rocket was a great character, and I loved where the characters end.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
So how they end up. That I appreciate. So my number 2 movie going in is another movie that we saw together. Was Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I'll say it right now. I think it's the action movie of the year, let alone the summer. And again, a movie that's these movies have no right at this stage of the game to be as good as they are, but McQuarrie and Cruise together are cinemagic. And I think that they take time and detail into ensuring that they're not repeating themselves and that their story's not the same as it was before. And they add these new elements and these new stunts that they choreograph and set in. And they always go for, you always hear sequels should be bigger and better. Well, they do bigger and better. But they do it organically. Nothing seems ever forced. And the story that they have in this, I think is, really a good, solid story. The AI aspect of it is so topical today that it wasn't as such when they first started writing this script.
Right.
So Cruise is as crazy as ever, but the stunts were fantastic. I thought it was a really good story. I think the villain is fascinating and interesting. And for what's supposed to be two movies, I mean, it too ends on a cliffhanger of sorts, but it still has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
Which is kind of rare because sometimes when you know that there's a part two, they leave it at such a they leave so many things, loose ends, not tied up. But this one, for the most part, wrapped up this story to lead into the next. And I thought that, and I still believe best action movie we're going to get this year. And if there is such a category as best stunts, I would point to this movie as getting best stunts. And it's a movie we saw together, which is, to me, always fun. I think it elevates any movie.
It's always fun to see. Well, guess
Even
what?
The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
That's my number one.
That's your number one. Yeah. Hey, well, look at that.
I am all in with these movies. My God, am I? And I ended up watching over like Labor Day weekend. My mother was in town. We ended up watching 2 of the Mission Impossible movies, Rogue Nation and Fallout. So there is just something about them. Look, I am an action film junkie. I really am. I love the movies. I search for them if I'm in the mood to just sit around and do kind of, maybe I'm doing multitasking, I'm doing something else, but I want an action movie on. Well, that's what I'll put. I'll put on an action movie. This one was above and beyond. I mean, watching it with you was so fun because that last 40 minutes of that movie was
exhausting, exhilaratingly exhausting. Yes.
Insane. I'm grabbing your arm going, oh, wait, get and the train was falling and oh my God. I couldn't get over it.
Yes. It took me the car ride home from my heart to my heart rate to get back to sort of normal.
That's something to say about a movie that makes you that jazzed up and that, we'll get to our dislikes, but Fast and Furious used to do that for me, back in the day. But Mission Impossible's continued to do that. And I just feel like they're seasoned. They're just getting, like you said, they just keep getting better.
And it's inconceivable as to how that happens. But like I said, I think McQuarrie and Cruise, they speak a similar language that the rest of us aren't in on, but they know how to do it, and they know how to cast their movies too really well. Between our Simon Peggs, Ving Rhames of the world, and the new faces are fantastic too. But the sequences are amazing. I never tire, and at this stage of the game, they have no right to make me like grabbing your arm or the edge of my seat. And the last 45 minutes of this movie is some of the best you're going to see. It is one of the pure definitions of what a summer movie should deliver. And what we all hope as moviegoers, what we all hope a sequel will deliver, because so many times we'll go to a sequel and, we're a little bit disappointed. But not in this series.
This year, this summer, I have to say, has to be a good one for third installments. Well, with Mission Impossible, I don't know where we're on, 7, 8, whatever we are.
20.
But, like Guardians and Equalizer and this one. I mean, it's just take your time. Take your time,
again,
folks.
It's been one of those summers where the movies have lived up to, I think, not speaking for you, at least my expectations, and my number one movie is totally a movie that did that. It's one of my favorites of the year, and it's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I have a huge Indiana Jones fan. If you go back to the Cinescope, or even when you watch KDM, talk a little bit about the history. Indiana Jones is a character born of two legends in the film community. It's George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. We've not seen a pairing of the like since. And this is their fifth, well, the fourth movie, Crystal Skull. A lot of people panned it. Spielberg opted not to direct this one because he wanted to do West Side Story. And now it escapes me the director. Geez. See,
on.
you too.
Well, it's not on my list, so hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead.
I'm still
Keep talking.
So, I mean, but
James
again,
Mangold.
James Mangold, who's done like Wolverine and no stranger to action, but I really got a sense that Mangold got and understood what Indiana Jones is. Now, I get it if you think that the action's out of date, because I, again, had this conversation with those same people from Ohio in Uga's Cantina. They're two different movies. I mean,
Yeah.
You can't compare Indiana Jones to Mission Impossible. Indiana Jones was never meant to be Mission Impossible.
No.
Indiana Jones was meant to be an homage to those great B movie serials that took place in the 40s and 50s. And that's what this movie is. It really is a great, wonderful throwback. In Indiana Jones, the movies have always they've always been intertwined with history in one way, shape, or form with whatever's going on. This movie, I thought, did it well. It was a wonderful, again, end of a series. And I felt that Harrison Ford, they didn't play down his age. The character really, you really felt it, and we had some great. Sala was wonderful. Seeing Sala and Karen Allen as Marion. There's some great payoff, especially at the end. Things made sense. We had a really good villain in Mads Mikkelsen. We had a great MacGuffin, the Dial of Destiny. And I just, from a nostalgic feels kind of way, I saw the movie twice. And each time towards the end, because Indiana Jones has been such a part of my movie going life ever since Raiders. So it's amazing to me that they were able to get Harrison Ford and that he's able to still walk.
I think he, like this, and with Han Solo in the, in the last movies, the last Star Wars movies, he wanted to do a proper send off for those two characters who have defined him basically as an action star. And I think he did it very well in this. It's not that I didn't like this movie. I liked it a lot. I guess it's probably one of my honorable mentions. You and I both got a chance to see it together, and we felt that nostalgia together. But the thing that I think I love the most about this one, not so much that it was an Indiana Jones movie, because I thought the plot was a little silly. And like I said, I didn't really love Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and there were just some things to it that didn't really hit home for me. But he, as Indiana, hit home for me. I mean, he played this character with such, like you said, with age, but with, some sorrow and some regrets, and just all of that kind of rolling into this, another adventure kind of thing. For me, it was just wonderful to see him, as that character and what he became and becomes, kind of thing. So I think that's what I loved about it most.
And how he moves on, because the movie opens in a way that we've never seen Indiana Jones ever in any of the movies. He's a broken man.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, with some regret in his life and such. So it's one of my favorites of the year. It's my number one movie. We can talk a little bit honorable mention. I already said Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And I guess in my honorable mentions, this is where I throw in a couple of actually superhero movies, because another one that I really enjoyed, I saw it twice too, was The Flash. I liked The Flash a lot. I was staying with superheroes. I liked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Again, here's another movie, an animated movie where the animation was great. It was something different. It was a hybrid. And it took from the original comics and looked a little anime. And I thought the animation was fantastic, but I love the characterizations as well. I like the little changes that they made for this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Another movie that I enjoyed, a comedy, was Joyride.
Oh
The all
yeah.
Asian Joyride, but rated R raunchy comedy that worked. It really, I felt it had some good belly laughs to it. I thought it was really well. Adele Lim, uh, um, writer director of this, I thought that movie worked. And speaking of raunch coms, the movie Strays, which was the dog movie, wasn't it? It proved to be not a dog at all. Another pleasant surprise going into it. I was like, good God, these trailers are awful. I can't imagine what that's going to be. But hey, any movie that showcases a Boston Terrier, because I have a Boston Terrier dog, walking by cats and the words, just
Yeah.
looking at them, F you, F you, F you. I mean, the movie really embraced its R-ratedness, and the movie was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and it delivered laughs.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah,
those are some of my.
so let's go briefly over some of the ones you didn't like, and we'll wrap this thing up here.
Okay, so let's see. So for my summer stinkers, I'm gonna start with my number 5 was Transformers: Rise of the Beast. We can just let this franchise go away as
Please,
far as the
please.
sport. It's just I'm fine if I don't see another Transformer movie again. My number 4 was an animated movie called Ruby Gelman, and this Kraken movie. I know it's based off of a book. It's based off of a kid's book. Again, it was fine, but when you compare it to the animation that we get today,
right,
it really wasn't that fine. And the story, we've kind of seen it done before and better. Yeah. My other one, my number 3 movie was this was kind of a disappointment for me, Meg 2. I mean, God, I mean, listen, if you want to talk about campy, cheesy movies, Meg 2 is perfect. But damn, did they just went off the rails on this movie.
Because the first one wasn't very good either.
Well, the first one's not very good, but it's good fun, as you say. This one, they just when they're 26,000 feet underwater, and Jason Statham's Jonas decides he has to do a walk from one thing to another, and the excuse is, oh, well, I have a deviated septum. I go and I'm like, wait, what? And somebody else goes, well, you don't see fish down here having to have suits on. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, it's good God, really? So that was my number 3. My number 2 was Blue Beetle. A superhero movie that to me just, I mean, it just goes nowhere. And it's unfortunate too, because we see fresh faces in this movie and people who I like. The lead actor from Cobra Kai. I mean, there was some decent fresh talent in this movie, and it focuses on a Latin American family, and yet to me it ends up falling into some stereotype, and the last act, all it is loudness and explosion and superhero mayhem. If you're going to make yourself say you're so proud in making the first Latin American superhero kind of a movie for DC, they deserve better. And then my worst movie of the summer was No Hard Feelings. This was to be a raunch romantic comedy with Jennifer Lawrence. This movie, I was aghast, as my mouth dropped as to how unfunny it was in scenes, how it just did not work at all. The movie kind of made me angry, although there was another movie, not a summer movie, that made me more angry. Worst movie of the year. So this one will get at the end of the year booted to number 2, but I had very hard feelings against No Hard.
And I like my summer movie viewing experience was not quite as extensive as yours, but I did not like Fast X either. Now, it was definitely a step up from the one before that, which I can't even
Would have
remember.
had
Fast
to have
Nine.
been.
God, when they went to space, they lost me. I was
Same
really
here.
disappointed. I was disappointed because
Me too.
I really have liked these movies. I mean, even after Paul Walker died, I thought that they continued on. Maybe not quite as good, but certainly there was still some good stuff going on. But when they went to space, they just lost me. And then this one, yeah, I mean, they didn't go to space, thank God. But yeah, I'm like, come on.
It's hard to recover from a pacer in space or whatever the hell
Yeah,
car or what, I forget what it was, a
yeah,
Pinto or something.
yes,
That was hard. You and I, we talked about that, and we feel the same way. That's where you
yeah,
completely lost me. This one, look, I'll just be happy when it's over too. It's another one. It's just like just end up,
yeah.
just room
But
your
you know
way
what?
off to the sunset.
Learn a lesson, because we've been talking about how if you take some time to think about something, how you want to end it, or whatever the case may be, take your time. So
Well, I didn't
then,
hate Fast X though. Fast X did have some decent, like the
yeah,
big
it did.
exploding ball through Rome
Yeah,
was
that
a
was kind
decent
of cool.
sequence. They had some decent, like you said. I agree 100%. It was better than Fast Nine. I
Yeah,
mean, but that was a pretty damn low bar, like limbo low bar.
I know, I
And
know.
so, you could have almost done, you could have done an Evil Knievel toy thing and make them jump, and that's a better movie. But you
Yeah,
know, it was fine.
yeah.
It was
It was okay,
fine,
but definitely would
you
not
know.
put it up there though. So anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
So
listen, this was
those
fun.
are that was our summer home, summer not special edition of KDM.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
no, it's a lot of fun. And then we'll be back with some movie reviews because there are some
next week.
really yeah, I can't wait because we've got Dumb Money, which I would like to have some Dumb Money right now. And another movie that I saw last night. I just wrote my review for again. I thought it was good, and now I can't even think about
Haunting
what.
of Venice.
Oh, the A Haunting in Venice, which is the further adventures of Hercule Poirot.
Peru. Yes.
So,
So we'll
Kenneth
talk.
Branagh. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about that movie, and then we'll talk about Dumb Money, and we're going into fall, baby.
Yeah.
We are
Woo!
going into fall.
Exciting
So,
times.
I
Exciting
think
times,
so.
guys.
Yeah, I agree. Can't wait to talk more and talk more movies, and we'll see what other specials we can come up with,
Yep.
and who we can talk about. But thank you very much, Kit. It's so good to see you.
Dimitri.
It seems like
I
it's been like
know.
5 years.
I know. I travel, guys, for my job. It's a bit hard on me on because I wanted to go see all the movies.
But
So,
but
but
I'm
I can
glad.
do it, and I love talking to you about them.
It's good. No, I'm glad. It's awesome. Like, yeah, that's a really good show. I have noticed, and we should do this for the people that are watching. Subscribe, number one.
Please.
Number thank you for watching.
Yes.
Number two, recommend it to people if you want. Get in on the conversation on YouTube, because when it posts, I make it so that everybody's allowed to comment. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Here's a great. What are your favorite 5 movies of this past summer, and what are your 5 summer stinkers?
Yeah. Let us
Would love to know that as well. But thank you for watching, because it really does mean a lot. And I have noticed that our numbers have gone up some, baby steps. And I think it's great. Once YouTube starts placing ads on these things, that you're almost doing something right. So that's awesome. So thank you very much for
Thank you,
watching. Kit,
guys.
thank you very much for being a friend and a colleague. I appreciate you and appreciate doing the show together with you.
Mwah.
Mwah. Make it back
Well,
safely, and
yeah.
we'll talk very soon. To
Bye,
you
guys.
and to you. Bye all.
Bye.